Watching this on YouTube, welcome to our third Chat and Connect session. Today we're focusing on children's and parents' nervous systems. I'm Brenda. I'm a mum, a nanny to a beautiful 3-year-old granddaughter, a former teacher and the education director of Forming Connections. This is Sally. Do you want to say a little bit about you, Sally?
Yeah, I'm Sally, mum to a little 3-year-old boy. I work in a secondary school. I'm a teaching assistant, and I'm coming from Connected Beginnings. I nearly said Forming Connections then. And yeah, I'm just here to learn about the nervous system, and I'm interested in the child's brain development. And yeah, just wanted to have I've got a few questions for you, so.
Yeah, brilliant. So the session will have a loose structure. So for those of you obviously who's listening, I'm talking to Sally, but if anybody's listening to it, loose structure. So Sally, you and I will be chatting about the topic. We'll be exploring the questions today through a solution focus lens. So it might be something that you're familiar with, it might not be, but we look at exceptions and different things that could happen so that the information comes from you actually, because you've got all that wisdom and intuition within you. Sometimes you just need it teasing out a little bit. So I'm going to record the session, obviously, so that it will be used to share with others. So as mentioned, this is our third rooted rhythmic connecting parenting session. The chats are about making sense of early childhood in a way that feels practical and compassionate. Parenting isn't about getting everything right. It's about building relationships where both you and your child can feel safe, connected and understood. So today, like Sally said, we're exploring something that underpins all of that, our nervous systems. So before I hand back to Sally, I just want to say a little something about rhythms, as it's rhythmic, rooted and connected. So nature is rhythmic. Our breathing has a rhythm. Our heartbeat has a rhythm. Sleep has a rhythm. Seasons have a rhythm. Child development has a rhythm. Parenting has a rhythm too. And there are moments of connection and moments of rapture, moments of calm and moments of chaos. Probably you can recognise some of these, Sally.
Yeah,
so the goal isn't to eliminate the hard moments. The goal is to find our way back. So, Sally, I'm not sure if you wanted to do a grounding practice before we start, or we can get straight on to. We could just have a breath together, or if you don't want to do a formal one.
Probably just do a breath because I haven't prepared one for today. I've had a bit of a hectic week. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
We'll do a breath.
Yeah, we could do a breath and a shrug of shoulders.
Yeah.
Should we do the shrug in the shoulders? Just let all that go and breathe out. It's just having a moment, isn't it, to just bring yourself into the space. Up again and feel your feet on the floor. Just come to the moment, be in the present moment where we are now. One more for good luck. Breathing in and then just arrive back into the space. So
it's always good to do one more.
Yeah, always, never enough.
Yeah.
So let's get to our check-in. We usually do a check-in, thinking about how you're feeling today on a scale up to 10, with kind of 0 being I'm actually asleep and my eyes open, or 10, I feel alive and I could conquer the world. So how are you feeling today, Sally? How's Sally?
I'm about probably 5 and a 6. So had a bit of broken sleep again last night, and an early rising. So I feel okay mentally and emotionally. All of that's great. It's just tiredness, I'd say, is putting its brakes on me when I want to do things. But apart from that, I feel okay.
Yeah, brilliant. So if between a 5 and 6, that's good. What would make it a little bit higher then, do you think? If we were to say you were going up a bit higher, what do you think? Say if we said you were a 7, say if you went up to a 7, what would you notice? As in, what would you notice if you were a 7? What would be different about the day, or what would other people notice?
Probably if I was a little bit more present in what I was doing throughout the day. I feel like I'm rushing things a little bit and not quite fully, like I've got an ADHD brain today, so I've got my hand in lots of different things. So if I could just get focused on one thing, that would probably bring me to a 7, so I can actually finish it.
Yeah, so a little bit scattered. And remember, we've had 2 weeks of a heat wave.
Oh God,
we're
yeah.
going to be tired and a bit frazzled and not sleeping.
Yeah.
It catches up with you, doesn't it? It really
Definitely.
does. So you prepared 3 questions, Sally, for this session. Would you like to say what they are and the reason you asked those questions? I'm going to answer each one separately. So you can do them one at a time, or you can do them all 3 of them at the moment. It's up to you.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go through them. So my first one was, does your nervous system affect your child? And then the next one is, how can you co-regulate? And do you help form your child's nervous system? So they're the ones that kind of bother me, because I'm working a lot on my own nervous system and trying to daily regulate things, figure out little triggers and all this kind of stuff. Not really taking in how it can be affecting him, or how it can be building him. Even if I'm doing positive things, is that helping my child form his? Does he have a separate one to me and it just has its own way of building, or is it all solely on me? Like, is it built on the people around them? Does that create their nervous system, or is there a bit of their own growth in there without me affecting it too much? If that makes sense.
What do you feel like it is? What is your own understanding at the moment of what you mean, so that I can get a little bit more at a deeper? I'll explain to you what I think it is, but just to get a clearer idea.
I think I went through probably the first 2 years of just thinking, he's got his own mind, he's got his own thing going on, I've got mine. And I, like, even conversations around him, I thought wouldn't really take it in. And you can't really, sometimes, if something stressful is happening, I can't really see a reaction at that moment with him. If something just happens and it's around him and you don't necessarily want it to be happening, but if something stressful happens on the road or whatever,
life,
I kind of would check him and think, oh, he looks fine, and I'd just assume he's absolutely fine, nothing and then I got that kind of in my head that nothing's really affecting him, so whatever I'm going through isn't too impactful to him. And now I'm starting to think otherwise and starting to kind of be interested in whether I can help build his up alongside mine, I think.
And the thing is, I think you probably notice that more as he's getting older, as he's becoming more, you can see his own little personality coming through. And you might start to hear things you've said, things your partner said, things your mum has said, like coming through. So actually, when he's a bit younger, it's difficult to notice what actually is going through. So, but I'll have a go. I'll just have a little bit about a little introduction, and then I'll look at each of the questions. So before we talk about children's nervous systems, because obviously I'm all about the brain, I'd just like to zoom out a little bit and get you to think about what your body and brain are doing all of the time. So they're quite extraordinary, really. So every second of the day, without us even thinking about it, our brain and body is regulating your breathing, your heart rate, your body temperature, your hormones, your digestion, your energy levels, and you're processing thousands of pieces of information, both from outside in the external world, but also internally, all the sensations that we can feel internally. So our brains and bodies are processing so much. But at the same time, your brain's trying to make sense of that. So your brain is trying to make sense of all that stuff that's going on at the minute. Oh, what's that sensation making? What does that mean? What, is it wind, or is it, am I nervous, or, what kind of sensations are going? So your brain is constantly trying to make sense. Your mind and your brain and all the connections of what's going on. It's asking what's happening. Is this familiar? What do I need to do next? But our job isn't to get, so a lot of people think of the nervous system like our job is to keep us calm. There's this, it's quite binary. There's this here that we don't want to be in, or there's this down here that we do, this calmness. But your brain's job isn't to keep it calm. Your nervous system and your brain is to help you adapt. It's to help you adapt to whatever is in front of you. What you see and what you're experiencing. So one way it does that is through our autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is obviously, if you think about the word autonomic, most of it happens without, we don't think, oh, I'll need my kidneys to have a little bit more water, or that all does that. That is like an automatic program. So that's why it's autonomic. So before we start to think about children's behavior, and when I say behavior, I just mean what we see. Whatever they're doing, we'll call it behavior. It doesn't mean that they're doing something right or wrong. It's just that's what we visually see in front of us. That's what they present with behavior. It has no good or bad. So, but it helps us to understand a little bit more about what we see them do externally, if we can understand what's happening, but not just inside them, but you. So, as I said, it's constantly on it. Autonomic nervous system's constantly working behind the scenes, helping us to regulate, breathing, heart rate, etc. All the things. Energy levels is particularly important, and because we don't have to think about it. It's kind of autonomic, and we're not taught to think about any of that. It's not something that's really in the conscious. My brain must be really busy today trying to regulate this temperature. We don't kind of have that as a question, do we? So at the time, our brain's taking in all this information from inside, trying to regulate and the world around us, and it's constantly asking, it's constantly trying to make sense of what's happening and what does my body need and how do I need to respond. That's what you're internally doing subconsciously every minute of the day. Even while I'm talking, you're probably trying to respond to that. You're keeping one eye on what's happening there. Your brain is kind of all over the place. So a little bit. So one part of the autonomic nervous system is called the sympathetic nervous system. And that's the part that helps us mobilize. It's action. It helps us do things. It gives us the energy we need to focus, to solve problems, to play, to move, to learn, to protect ourselves. And so we need that system every single day. But most people associate the sympathetic nervous system with fight or flight. So that's the branch. If we have two branches, we can think about, most people think of fight or flight. And then the other part, the parasympathetic nervous system, that's the part that helps us slow down, recover, and restore. And that supports things like digestion, sleep, healing, and conserving energy once all your demands have passed. But I'd like you to try and think today about, rather than thinking of one is good and one is bad, they're kind of designed to work together. So we kind of naturally move between them throughout the day, depending on what's happening about. Sometimes we need more energy and we need more movement. So we need to have the parasympathetic nervous system. And sometimes we need to relax and we're rhythmic. We need both. We need that kind of, like when you do any kind of, like when we used to do yoga, we used to do your relaxing, where you do your tense and relax. We need that kind of backwards and forwards all day. We can't stay in high energy, and we'd get nothing done if we were in relax. So we need to be able to access any of them. So the goal isn't to stay calm all the time. It's like, imagine trying to play football or dance or chase your child, or concentrate on something important if you felt deeply relaxed all day. If you were calm and relaxed, you would never get anything done. And again, equally, you wouldn't want to stay highly activated all the time, would you? Because we'd be exhausted, if you just constantly. So what we're really aiming for in your nervous system and in your child is that flexibility. You know, the ability to be able to use the energy we need for the moment, and then when that moment's passed, kind of try and recover from it.
Yeah.
So, but when you think about the children, so their nervous systems are still developing. We find it difficult sometimes to monitor our energy levels, don't we? You know, are we relaxed enough? Are we energized enough? And remember, you know, children are born with nervous systems still developing. They're expected to manage all their feelings on their own. Some people expect that, you know, I'm not saying you do, but a lot of people expect them to kind of just, that's, you know, we give them kind of a moral judgment if they can't manage themselves. But they learn how to manage the big feelings through thousands of experiences with adults. You know, that's how they kind of learn how to do that. And as I said, it's a fluctuating thing. The other thing is they also have an immature prefrontal cortex. So this part at the front of your brain is the prefrontal cortex. That helps with planning, impulse control, emotional regulation, thinking things through. And that part of the brain develops right into early adulthood. So when your 3-year-old throws himself onto the floor, you know, because you cut your toast into triangles instead of squares, it's not because they're choosing to be difficult. The brain at that minute doesn't have the capacity to pause, have a little think about it, you know, reflect. Oh, what, you know, will it matter if my triangles, you know, they don't have that same capacity as we do. And sometimes we don't, you know, have that in. So that's where we come in. Our role, it's not to stop them having those big feelings or big reactions, to keep them calm all the time. Oh, she's gone. Are you still there? Gone?
Now I'm back.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back.
Yeah, so I think that's where we come in. Did I get to that bit? Where we come in, you know, we're not expected to, you know, to be able to stop them having all those big feelings. We can't stop having big feelings. You know, it's how we come in, it's how quick we come in and out of them, really, you know, because things happen. So for us, it's kind of helping them experience them and support them back to that balance, so they can build skills. So let's explore your first question, first of all. So do you want to remind us what the first question was?
Yeah, the first question is, sorry, lost it on here. It is, does your nervous system affect your child? So I think that's kind of, yeah.
So it does, but not obviously because you must be perfectly calm all the time. You know, that's not the thing. But children are really tuned into us. You know, before they, as a baby, you know, if you think about when he was very tiny, so before they understand the words that we can speak, they kind of, strangely enough, understand our tone of voice or facial expressions or breathing or posture and the pace. So if they're rushing, if we're rushing, you know, or tense or overwhelmed, they can pick up on that. You know, this is how they're learning to the nuances, you know, that dipping, as I said, dipping in and out for most children. So it doesn't mean that you've got to be calm every second of the day, because that's impossible, you know, and children don't need perfect parents. They need parents who can help them repair things after they've done difficult moments. You know, once the kind of proverbial has hit the fan. Do you know what I mean? Once things have all gone wrong, it's how can we sort that out? You know, once we've done something that's a mistake, you know, it's having someone to kind of walk us through how we can repair afterwards. You know, so your calm is not about controlling, you know, your child's emotions. It's about offering them kind of an anchor when they're struggling. And you know, because our nervous systems are constantly doing the same thing, you know, reacting to information from the world, we ourselves notice tone of voice. You know, we notice facial expressions and body language and pace with other people around us, don't we? You know, so if you notice, if you're with someone, they can affect how you're feeling, can't they? You know, you might think,
Oh,
well,
totally,
they don't, you know, they don't look very happy at that moment, or, you know, there's something, the tone's not quite right. And we say, is there anything right? You know, we kind of question it and querying. But young children are specific, I think they're especially sensitive to this because they're still learning how to understand their internal world. So it doesn't mean we've got to be calm all the time or even hide your emotions and your upsets and, you know, everything that's, you know, when you lose it, everyone does, you know, when we are not in control. In fact,
Oh, sorry, 1 second.
hold on.
Are you not watching your thing? Because I've just got a few more minutes on here and I'll be someone. Yeah. Okay. Got a little skeleton. Come on. Go and watch that for a few more minutes then, and I will come back. Great parenting. Go watch the TV. No, he's into this little program at the minute, so sorry about that.
It's all right. Are you all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be fine.
Yeah. So as I was saying, in fact, seeing a parent experience different emotions and recover from them is really an important part of learning. You know, if you can see someone else having a really difficult time,
I
do you
think
know
I'm a
what I
little
mean?
bit. Yeah, I'm scared to. I don't think I've ever cried in front of him, so that's something I'm not really a crier anyway. I struggle with it. Struggle to let that out. So that's something I'm trying to work on. But yeah, I'm terrified of allowing him to see me sad. I don't know, like angry is seen and he's seen frustrated and all these kinds of things. And I always explain why I'm feeling that way. But with sadness, that's what I'm just terrified to show. I think it's because my mum never cried. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's, you know, it's if we think about the whole range of human experience, you know, there are going to be times when you're going to be really sad. That's part of life. You know, we all lose people. We all lose things. Do you know, it's something we have to learn how to deal with. And sometimes we're probably struggling with some things we've got to learn ourselves. And it can show, you know, it can show you a little bit about what you need to know yourself. So
And you need me to do anything